"Don't move," the man said softly, lowering his rifle. The creature on the ground flinched at the sound of his voice. Corporal Ethan Ward had seen 1,000 dead faces in this war between humans and the Kalari Empire, but not like this one. Not like hers. He stepped through the smoke, boots crunching over shattered crystal hull plating. The wrecked alien escape pod was half buried in the dirt, its elegant silver wings folded and scorched. Fires crackled, the scent of ozone and blood mixed in the cold air. Inside, beneath a layer of glowing dust, lay a small figure. She was breathing, and barely. Her skin was faintly luminous, silver blue, and her eyes, when they flickered open, shimmered like molten amethyst. She whispered something weakly in her language, voice shaking. Ethan didn't understand the words, but the fear in her tone was universal. He knelt, rifle slung back, and held up a hand. "Easy. I'm not going to hurt you," he said, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was pounding. Her gaze darted to his uniform, the human insignia and the enemy. Her lips trembled. She tried to crawl away, one arm limp and bleeding. A trail of silver blood marked her struggle. Ethan saw the wound, plasma burn deep enough to be fatal. She was dying, and from the chatter on his earpiece he knew her people had abandoned her. "Command, this is Ward," he said into his comm. "Found a survivor. Kailari female injured." "Leave her," came the cold reply. "Those monsters burned 5 colonies last month. Extraction in 10. Don't waste resources." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's not a soldier," he said quietly. "Ward, that's an order." He turned off the comm. The girl, no, the princess, blinked at him as if she understood what he'd just done. Her breathing grew shallower. Ethan hesitated. He'd lost enough people to know what it looked like when life was slipping away. He pulled his med kit open. "Hold still." "I'm trying to help," she recoiled weakly. Her voice cracked. "Why? Human help, Kalari?" Her English was broken, accent light and musical. It surprised him that she even tried to speak his language. Ethan gave a half smile. "Because dying alone sucks, no matter what planet you're from." Her eyes widened, first with confusion, then something else. Something fragile. Hope. He sealed her wound with field foam, wrapped it, and gave her a stim shot. She gasped. A small sound of pain that turned into a shuddering breath. Her trembling eased slightly. "Name?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, then said, "Lyra, of House Varith." House Varith. He'd heard the name before on Kalari royalty, so that's what Command wanted him to leave behind. He looked around the shattered valley. No rescue pods. No soldiers. No signals. She truly was left to die. He stood and reached out a hand. "Come on, Lyra. Let's get you out of here before someone else finds you." Her voice was a whisper. "You disobeyed your people." "For me." Ethan gave a small grim smile. "Guess I've got a bad habit of doing the right thing at the wrong time." He lifted her, light as air, her faint bioluminescence flickering against his armor. As they moved through the ash and wreckage, the distant rumble of engines grew louder. Human dropships. He ducked behind debris. If Command saw him carrying her, they'd both be dead. He looked at her face, fragile, scared, and so alive it hurt. "Hold on," he whispered. "I'll get you somewhere safe." The princess nodded weakly, her fingers gripping his sleeve. And in that ruined battlefield where mercy was forbidden, a spark of something rare began to burn. Trust. Neither of them knew it yet, but that spark would change the fate of 2 worlds. The night fell fast on the war-scorched valley. Ethan moved like a shadow. The weight of the alien girl in his arms balanced carefully against his chest. Every step through the ash was a betrayal, not to his instincts, but to his orders. Above, the searchlights of human dropships sliced through the darkness like white knives. His comm still buzzed faintly, a voice demanding answers. He ignored it. The girl, Lyra, stirred weakly, her breath shallow against his neck. Her skin's faint glow dimmed with each passing minute. He ducked into the mouth of a collapsed bunker, an old outpost half buried by years of bombings. The walls smelled of rust and rain. Safe enough for now. He set her down gently on an old thermal blanket. Her eyes fluttered open. "You risk everything," she whispered. Ethan crouched beside her. "Yeah, seems to be my thing lately." He tore open a ration pack, poured some water into a tin cup, and lifted it to her lips. She hesitated, then sipped, trembling. "You are different," she murmured after a moment. "You're kind. They kill mine. Ethan looked down. And yours kill ours? War makes everyone monsters. Her gaze softened. Then why help me? He didn't have an answer. Not one that made sense. Maybe it was because she looked so young, barely 20. Maybe it was because, for all the hate he'd seen, she was the first Kalari whose eyes didn't burn with contempt, only fear. He took off his gloves, letting his rough human hands touch the edge of her silver-blue skin as he checked the med seal. It was still holding. That wound'll heal if you rest. Lyra's expression twisted faintly. Pride, shame, grief all tangled together. They left me, she said. My guards. My fleet, they said. Not worth saving. Ethan froze. Your own people said that? Her jaw trembled. I refused order to bomb human colony. They called me traitor. The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, the faint boom of distant artillery reminded them both that the war was still raging. Ethan sat back, staring at the dim blue light flickering from her skin. A Kalari princess who defied her own empire to save human lives, and got abandoned for it. He finally spoke. Guess that makes two of us who disobeyed. Her lips curved into the smallest, tired smile. Then we both dead soon. He chuckled softly. Probably, but not tonight. Hours passed. Lyra slept and Ethan kept watch at the bunker's entrance. The stars were cold above, fractured by the orbiting wrecks of warships. He thought about Earth, about the cities that had burned, the screams through the calm, the faces he couldn't save. He'd told himself he was done caring. Yet here he was, guarding a wounded alien princess like she was the last hope left in the galaxy. When dawn came, her breathing was steadier. Her wounds shimmered faintly with biotic healing light. She opened her eyes again and whispered, Ethan, that is your name, yes? Yeah, he said with a faint grin. You remember that through all the pain? I remember. Kindness. She replied softly. Something in his chest twisted. Kindness. That word had almost vanished from his world. He helped her sit up slowly. We'll move at dusk. Too much air patrol in daylight. Where? Will you take me? Nearest neutral outpost. There's a medical shelter run by old Terran miners. They won't ask questions. She looked down, then whispered, If they find me, they will kill you too. He smirked. They'll have to catch me first. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying faint human voices. A patrol. Ethan froze, motioning for silence. Lyra's bioluminescence dimmed instinctively, her skin turning dull gray-blue like moonlight fading behind clouds. Ethan leaned close, whispering, Stay quiet. Don't even breathe loud. Footsteps crunched nearby. A beam of light passed over the bunker entrance, paused, then moved on. When the sound faded, Ethan exhaled shakily. Lyra's eyes met his, wide and trembling. He smiled faintly. See? Told you. Not dead yet. For the first time, she laughed, soft, broken, beautiful. And in that laughter, between enemies who no longer knew what sides meant, something began to heal that neither of them could name. The next night came with no moon, only fire. Ethan crouched beside the shattered wall of the old bunker, adjusting the straps of his armor. Beyond the hills, the horizon burned with distant bombardments. The air trembled with thunder from human artillery. Lyra sat quietly behind him, her glow faint but steady now. Her eyes followed his every move. You walk again? He asked, keeping his tone light. She nodded, testing her leg. Slowly, but yes. Good, because we can't stay here. Search drones sweep this sector every 6 hours. Next one's due in 30 minutes. Lyra tilted her head, that subtle Kalari grace returning. You always speak like soldier planning to die. He gave a dry smile. Occupational habit. They moved through the ruined valley, step by step, silence between them except for the whisper of ash under their boots. The stars above were pale ghosts behind the smoke. As they climbed over a ridge, Lyra stopped suddenly. Her gaze fixed on something in the dark. Ethan followed her eyes, then froze. Down below, in a crater lit by dying fires, lay the wreck of a Kalari dropship. Dozens of alien soldiers, her own people, scattered like dolls, burnt and twisted. Lyra stumbled forward, her face paling. My guard? She whispered. They were loyal once. Ethan caught her arm gently. Don't, you'll only hurt yourself more. but she broke free, dropping to her knees beside the wreck. Her voice trembled. They died because of me. Because I refused to give the order. He knelt beside her. No, they died because war doesn't care who's right. Her shoulders shook, silent tears falling, not red but faintly silver, shining in the dark. Ethan hesitated before resting a hand on her shoulder. You did what was right, Lyra. That's something worth living for. She turned to him, and for the first time her eyes burned not with fear but anger. Then why does doing right always mean losing everything? Ethan had no answer. The question echoed in his mind long after they left the crater behind. By dawn, the sky had turned the color of steel. They reached the canyon pass that led toward the neutral zone. The cliffs stretched high and narrow, jagged like broken teeth. Ethan scanned the terrain with his visor. If we make it through that gap, we're clear. But Lyra's eyes narrowed. Something is wrong. She was right. The hum hit first, the cold, metallic buzz of engines. Then a spotlight sliced the sky. Drone! Ethan barked. Down! They dove into the rocks as plasma bolts hissed through the air, cutting streaks of blue fire. The drone circled, sensors sweeping. Ethan aimed his rifle, fired once, a perfect shot. The drone exploded in a shower of sparks. But it was too late. The signal had gone out. They know we're here, he muttered. How long? Lyra asked, breath trembling. 5 minutes, maybe less. He checked his map. There was only one path left, across a broken bridge of steel beams, hanging above a molten ravine from an old orbital strike. Stay behind me, he said, voice steady but urgent. They ran. The wind screamed through the canyon as engines roared above, dropships descending. Searchlights danced across the cliffs. Ethan reached the bridge first, half collapsed and swaying. Don't look down, he warned. Lyra followed, every step echoing. She reached the middle, then a beam cracked beneath her foot. Ethan, she cried. He spun, grabbing her hand as the metal gave way. She dangled over the abyss, glowing eyes wide with terror. Hold on, he shouted, muscles straining. Her hand slipped once. He tightened his grip. I've got you. I'm not letting go. Her voice was faint. Why? Why save me still? Because someone has to, he yelled, pulling her up with a roar. They both fell onto the bridge, gasping, hearts pounding. Lyra clung to him, trembling. You are mad human, she whispered. Ethan grinned weakly. You're not wrong. They crawled off the bridge just as the first plasma blasts hit behind them, lighting the sky. As they vanished into the rocks, smoke rising behind them, Ethan glanced at her and said, We made it this far. We'll make it all the way. And though neither truly believed it, for the first time, they both wanted to. Corporal Ethan Ward, you are hereby declared rogue combatant under Article 12. The transmission echoed from his wristcom before he smashed it against the rock. They'd found him. The words from command had burned through static like a death sentence. Somewhere, out there, human patrols were already moving, not to rescue but to eliminate. Ethan stared at the broken device, then at the faint glow of dawn creeping over the ridge. The wind carried the smell of smoke and dust. Lyra watched him quietly. She didn't ask what the message had said. She already knew. They hunt you now, she murmured. He gave a grim nod. Yeah. And they'll hit hard. Her eyes lowered. Because of me. Because of me, he corrected softly. I made the choice. You didn't ask me to. She looked at him for a long moment, her violet eyes full of something he hadn't seen since before the war. Sorrow mixed with gratitude. They found a temporary shelter in an old mining tunnel carved into the cliffs. Ethan checked the power cells on his rifle. 2 left. He'd have to make them count. Lyra sat near the wall, fingers tracing ancient carvings in the rock. The Kaelari could feel energy in stone, he'd heard. She seemed calmer here. Do you ever regret it? She asked suddenly. Regret what? Being soldier. He thought for a long time. I regret what it made me forget. Her gaze softened. And now? He looked at her, fragile, luminous, alive because of his stubbornness. Now I remember why I joined in the first place. To save lives, not destroy them. A faint smile touched her lips. Strange human. You remind me of Kalari poets. They wrote of mercy in times of blood. He chuckled. Never thought I'd be compared to a poet by a princess. Her expression turned sad. I was not always princess, my sister was heir. I was a diplomat. I tried to stop this war. What happened? Her eyes dimmed. They said peace is weakness. I refused to order death, so they made sure I'd die instead. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then your people lost more than they know. She met his gaze, her voice trembling. And your people will kill you for saving me. He smiled faintly. Maybe. But if dying means proving we're not all monsters, that's a price I can live with. Her breath hitched. You believe in that? I have to. Hours later, the sound of engines came again. Closer this time. Ethan moved to the entrance, peering through a slit in the rock. 2 human walkers, armored and armed, scanning the canyon. He whispered, They're here. Lyra rose slowly. You cannot fight them alone. Not planning to. I just need to slow them down long enough for us to run. She touched his arm, her hand cool and glowing faintly. If you die, I die too. Ethan smiled, though his throat was tight. That's not the plan, Princess. When the first walker crested the ridge, he fired. The plasma bolt hit dead center, sending the machine crashing into the rocks. The second opened fire, blue streaks cutting through the dust. Ethan ducked, rolled, fired again, hit the leg joint. It sparked, twisted, and fell. But before he could reload, something struck nearby, a concussive blast knocking him backward. He hit the ground hard, armor cracked. Lyra screamed his name, the sound sharp and raw. Through the haze, Ethan saw her run toward him. No! Stay back, he shouted, but she didn't listen. She raised her hands, and the air itself shimmered. A wave of silver light rippled outward, pure and bright. The damaged walker froze mid-motion, metal twisting like clay. Then it imploded silently, the energy vanishing into the earth. Ethan blinked. What was that? Lyra was trembling, her glow dimming fast. Old gift, Kalari bloodline, costs much to use. He crawled to her, catching her before she fell. You saved me, he whispered. Her faint smile was tired but proud. Then we both fools now. Ethan held her close as the smoke cleared. He knew Command would send more. They always did. But right now, holding the girl who'd just risked her life for him, he couldn't bring himself to care. Somewhere deep inside, a soldier's loyalty finally cracked, replaced by something far stronger. Something human. The desert stretched endless, red sand glowing under the pale light of 2 suns. Ethan trudged forward, the sound of his boots muffled by dust. Lyra leaned against him, weaker now, her glow faint and pulsing like a dying ember. Her power use back in the canyon had nearly killed her. They'd been walking for hours with no cover, no supplies. The mining tunnels were far behind them, the neutral zone still a full day's trek away. Ethan stopped to catch his breath, lowering her gently to the ground. We rest 5 minutes, he said, forcing calm into his voice. Lyra nodded weakly. You still think we make it? He smiled. You still talking? That's proof enough. She gave a small, tired laugh, then coughed. Her blood, silver again, streaked her lips. Ethan's stomach twisted. He wiped it away gently. Hey, none of that. We're almost there. Her eyes fluttered open. Almost never means safe. He had no argument for that. By noon, the heat shimmered across the sand like liquid glass. Ethan saw something glinting in the distance. A communications relay tower, half buried, but still powered. Maybe we can use that to call for help, he muttered. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Your command will track signal. I'm not calling them, he said, shaking his head. There's a group of independent traders on this frequency. If we're lucky, they'll send a ship. He climbed the ridge, boot deep in sand, and pried open the relay panel. Sparks hissed. The interface still worked. He linked his wristcom through manual override. Please, he whispered to the static. Someone out there. Need evac. Civilian and wounded. Coordinates. The comm crackled. Ethan Ward, came a cold, familiar voice. He froze. Did you think we wouldn't find you? Said Major Rourke, his old commanding officer. You're transmitting on a military band. We've had you triangulated for hours. Ethan's blood ran cold. You shouldn't have answered, Lyra, he muttered. But it was already too late. Don't fight it, Ward, Rourke's voice continued. Stand down and we'll make it quick. Ethan slammed the panel shut, cutting the signal. They're coming. Lyra looked up from where she sat. Then go. Leave me. They want me, not you. He crouched in front of her, furious and desperate. Don't you dare say that. You think I walked through hell to quit now? Her voice was faint. You cannot save both of us. Watch me. The first gunship appeared over the horizon, black against the red sun. Ethan pulled her into a half-collapsed trench, the earth shaking as engines thundered overhead. He could feel the vibration in his ribs, dust and wind whipped at them. The human insignia gleamed on the hull, his own people hunting him like prey. He raised his rifle, then stopped. Against plasma cannons, his weapon was meaningless. Lyra reached out, touching his arm. There is another way, she whispered. What way? Her gaze was distant, unreadable. Kailari ships always listen for royal codes. Even now. If I send signal, maybe they come. He stared at her. Your people left you to die, Lyra. I know, she said quietly. But they will come. Not for me. For what I am. She reached into the folds of her torn armor, revealing a small crystal, cracked but glowing faintly blue. Royal beacon. It links to the old fleets. Ethan hesitated. If you activate that, you'll reveal both of us. She nodded slowly. Yes. He looked at the gunship circling above, closer now. He had seconds to choose. Do it, he said finally. Send it. She pressed the beacon to her chest. The light flared, brilliant and cold. It pulsed once, twice, then vanished. A minute passed. 2. Nothing. Ethan's heart sank. Maybe it's too damaged. Then the air rippled. A shadow passed across the sun. Above the clouds, something vast moved. A silver shape descending from orbit, silent as a ghost. Lyra's eyes widened. They answered. The human gunship changed course instantly, alarms wailing. Ethan grabbed her hand. Time to run. They bolted through the trench as debris fell like rain. The alien warship broke through the atmosphere, sleek and alive with power. Ethan glanced back once. The human gunship was obliterated in a single pulse of blue light. As they sprinted toward the distant cliffs, the sky burned silver and gold. Lyra whispered, breathless. They will not take kindly to human beside me. Ethan just laughed, rough and tired. Too late for first impressions. The world was silver. That was Ethan's first thought when the light swallowed them. One moment he and Lyra were running across burning sand. The next they were weightless, pulled upward by a beam that shimmered like liquid moonlight. Then came silence. The sound of the battlefield faded, replaced by a faint hum that vibrated through the air. Ethan's boots hit solid ground. He blinked, and realized they were standing inside something vast. A ship. The Kailari warship stretched like a cathedral made of light and glass, its corridors breathing softly as if alive. Everything glowed with pale blue veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan reached for his weapon out of instinct, but a dozen armored Kailari soldiers had already surrounded them. Their weapons hummed with restrained power. Lyra raised a trembling hand. Stand down, she said weakly in her language. By right of royal code, I claim asylum under House Vareth. The soldiers hesitated. Their eyes widened. Princess Lyra? One finally asked. You live? Ethan watched their expressions, a mix of awe, confusion, and fear. Then behind them, a taller figure emerged. His armor gleamed with deep violet markings. His face was older, scarred, and commanding. "Impossible," he said, his voice low. "We were told you perished in the purge." "I would have," Lyra said, her voice faint but steady. "If not for him." The commander's eyes shifted to Ethan, hard, cold, assessing. "A human," he said like it was a curse. Ethan didn't move. "Name's Ward. And yeah, I pulled her out of the wreck." "You're welcome." The commander's jaw tightened. "You expect gratitude after what your kind has done?" Lyra stepped forward, though she nearly stumbled. Ethan caught her before she fell, and she whispered sharply, "Do not harm him." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. None dared disobey a royal order. The commander turned sharply. "Take her to medical. The human stays here." Ethan started to follow, but two guards blocked his path, energy rifles aimed at his chest. Lyra looked back, her eyes full of worry. "Ethan, I'll be fine," he lied. "Go. Get healed." She hesitated, then let herself be led away, her glow dimming around the corner. When she disappeared, the commander turned back to him. "You understand what you've done, human? You've broken laws of both our species." Ethan met his gaze. "Yeah, but she'd be dead otherwise." "You'd rather that?" The commander's expression didn't change. "Better dead than in enemy hands." Ethan felt anger burn in his chest. She refused to bomb humans. That's why she was left to die. "You call that loyalty?" The commander's eyes narrowed, a flicker of doubt breaking through his sternness. But it vanished quickly. "You speak boldly for a dead man," Ethan smirked. "Guess I'm not dead yet." Hours passed. They locked him in a translucent cell, clean, cold, and quiet. He paced, waiting, thinking. He'd come this far, crossed every line, and now it all came down to this. Whether Lyra could make them see reason, or whether they'd both vanish into the void. Then footsteps. The door shimmered open. Lyra stood there, her glow stronger now, wounds healed. She wore royal robes of woven light, her posture straight and proud. Ethan blinked. "You look better." "I feel better," she said softly, "because you are alive." Behind her came the commander again, his tone different this time. Cautious. "She has spoken in your defense. Said you saved her life. Said you refused to harm her even when ordered." Ethan crossed his arms. "That's true." The commander studied him for a long moment, then finally said, "Then perhaps one human still remembers honor." Lyra turned to Ethan. "They will not harm you, but they cannot let you go yet. My father must decide." "Your father?" Ethan asked. "The Emperor of Vareth," she said. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Great, no pressure, huh?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Do not fear him. He will listen. If he sees what I saw." He raised an eyebrow. "And what did you see?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "A human heart that remembered mercy." Outside the viewing window, the stars burned cold and far away. And for the first time, the Kailari, flagship, symbol of war and vengeance, carried something neither side had seen in years. A chance. The throne chamber of the Kailari Empire was a cathedral of stars. It rose high above the main deck. A vast, spiraling hall where light drifted like dust in water. The air shimmered with power, and at its center stood a throne carved from crystal that pulsed with a living glow. Upon it sat Emperor Vareth, tall, regal, and terrible in his stillness. His silver skin bore the faint sheen of age, and his violet eyes burned like frozen suns. Around him, nobles and generals whispered like serpents, curious and outraged. Lyra entered with slow, graceful steps. Her robe flowed like moonlight, her head held high. Ethan followed 2 paces behind, his human uniform ragged but his posture unbroken. The entire chamber went silent. The Emperor's voice filled the air like thunder beneath calm water. "My daughter returns. From the ashes of disgrace," Lyra bowed low. "Father, you defied your command, disobeyed royal order, and vanished during war. Now you bring this." He gestured toward Ethan, eyes narrowing. A human soldier. Ethan met that stare, unflinching. "I didn't come here for war, Your Majesty. Just to keep a promise." The court erupted in murmurs. A human speaking before the Emperor. Unthinkable. Lyra turned, voice steady but trembling at the edges. "He saved my life when both our armies would have let me die. He is not enemy. He is proof that mercy still lives, and even where hate rules." The Emperor rose slowly, his shadow stretching across the floor. "You were raised to understand duty, Lyra. Mercy is a luxury for the victorious." Ethan's jaw tightened. Then maybe that's why no one wins anymore. The hall gasped. The Emperor's gaze turned sharp as glass. You dare lecture me, human? Ethan took a step forward despite the guards' weapons raising. I dare because I've seen the cost of this war. On both sides. You think I haven't watched friends burn? You think I haven't lost everything that made me human? And still, when I found her bleeding in the dirt, I didn't see an alien. I saw someone worth saving. Lyra's voice softened, breaking the heavy air. Father, if he had not saved me, I would have died forgotten. You would have lost more than a daughter. You would have lost the last proof that compassion still exists between our worlds. Silence followed. The Emperor's hands clenched, then released. His eyes, old-wise wounded, lingered on his daughter. You would trust him? He asked finally. With my life, Lyra said, as he trusted me with his. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the Emperor descended from the throne. He walked toward Ethan, each step echoing like the heartbeat of the ship. When he stopped, they stood face to face on human and alien, soldier and king. You remind me, the Emperor said quietly, of the first humans we met, brave, foolish, unbroken. He turned to his council. The war has consumed us for too long. If there is to be peace, it must begin not with armies, but with those who defied them. Gasps rippled through the hall. Lyra's eyes widened. The Emperor raised his hand. By decree of the Kelari throne, hostilities will cease. A summit will convene with human command, and this man, Ethan Ward, will serve as envoy under the protection of House Vareth. Ethan blinked. You mean? Lyra smiled through tears. He means peace. The Emperor looked at them both, and his voice low, almost tender. You risked everything for one another. Let that bond be the bridge our worlds failed to build. Later, aboard the observation deck, the stars stretched infinite and calm. Ethan stood beside Lyra, both watching the twin suns rise over a quiet galaxy. So, he said softly, we just ended a 1,000-year war with a conversation. Lyra laughed, a real gentle laugh this time. Not ended. Begun again, but with hope. He glanced at her. You sure your father won't regret letting a human live? She smiled, eyes glowing softly. He might. But I won't. They stood in silence for a while, the hum of the ship surrounding them. Two souls from opposite worlds, bound by mercy and courage. Ethan reached out, and she took his hand without hesitation, the stars reflected in her eyes. And for the first time since the war began, the galaxy felt a little less cold.